The Freedom's Edge appeared above Earth like a ghost becoming real. One moment the space around humanity's homeworld was empty, and the next moment a ship was there that looked exactly the same as when it had left 3 months ago. But appearances could be deceiving. Captain Jake Morrison stood on his transformed bridge, watching Earth grow larger through the windows. The planet looked beautiful and peaceful, with white clouds swirling over blue oceans and brown continents. It was hard to believe that the entire galaxy was about to change forever. "Captain," said Communications Officer Amy Chen, "I'm receiving hundreds of messages from Earth Defense Command. They want to know how we escaped from the aliens and why our ship is broadcasting on frequencies that shouldn't exist." "Tell them we're coming home," Jake said, "and tell them to prepare for visitors." Behind the Freedom's Edge, space began to shimmer and bend. Other human ships were arriving, the cargo vessels that had been trapped by Zephyrian suppression fields for weeks or months. But these ships had been transformed just like the Freedom's Edge. Their crews had received Amy's technical broadcasts and had built their own hybrid systems. Dr. Susan Hayes was monitoring the quantum effects around Earth with her collection of simple but effective instruments. "Captain, our arrival is creating ripples in the galactic communication network. Every advanced species in the galaxy knows that something impossible just happened." Navigator Ryan Collins was using his mechanical computers to calculate the positions of incoming ships. 15 human vessels had successfully escaped alien control using hybrid technology. Each one was now more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen, but they all looked like primitive mechanical contraptions to alien sensors. "The other captains are requesting permission to come aboard," Ryan reported. "They want to coordinate our next steps." Within an hour, the cargo bay of the Freedom's Edge had become the meeting place for the most important gathering in human history. 15 ship captains and their senior officers crowded around the mechanical computers and steam-powered engines that had made their freedom possible. Captain Martinez of the New Frontier spoke first. "Jake, what you've accomplished here changes everything. But the aliens won't just let this happen. They'll send their entire fleet to stop us." "Let them come," said Captain Williams of the Star Trader. "Our ships can move through dimensions they can't even detect. Their weapons can't hit targets that exist in folded space." Lisa Parker had been working on modifications to their hybrid systems during the journey to Earth. "It's not about fighting them," she said. "It's about showing them that there's a better way." She activated a new device she had built, a transmitter that could send messages across the entire galactic communication network simultaneously. Every species in the galaxy has been controlled by the Zephyrians for thousands of years. They've all been told that their technology has to follow certain patterns or it will be shut down. But we've just proved that's not true. Dr. Hayes had made another discovery during their journey. "The suppression fields don't just control technology," she explained to the gathered captains. "They control thinking. Species that live under suppression for generations start to believe that the only way to build things is the way the Zephyrians approve of. But humans are different," added Tony Rodriguez. "We've only been in space for a few hundred years. We haven't forgotten how to think in new ways." Jake looked around at the faces of his fellow captains. These were ordinary people who had done extraordinary things. Cargo haulers and freight runners who had become the most advanced technologists in galactic history by refusing to accept that. Advanced meant complicated. "Here's what we're going to do," Jake announced. "We're going to share everything we've learned with every species in the galaxy. Not just humans, everyone. Every race that's been held back by alien control is going to get the chance to build their own hybrid systems." Amy activated the galactic transmitter. Jake's voice went out across the communication networks of thousands of worlds, reaching species that had been kept primitive for millennia. "Citizens of the galaxy," Jake began, "this is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Freedom's Edge. For thousands of years, you have been told that advanced technology is dangerous in the hands of primitive species. You have been told that only the Zephyrians can be trusted with real power. Today, we're here to tell you that this is a lie. The response was immediate. Alien voices filled the communication channels, not the cold, controlled tones of the Zephyrians, but excited, hopeful voices from dozens of different species. Humans, said a voice that sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. This is Speaker Melanth of the Crystalline Collective. Our people have dreamed of building light-based computers for centuries, but the suppression fields prevent all our attempts. Can your hybrid technology help us? Speaker Melanth, Jake replied. Our engineer Lisa Parker is transmitting the complete specifications for field interaction systems. Your light-based computers will work perfectly with hybrid technology. More voices joined the conversation. A species that communicated through scent wanted to build chemical-based systems. Another race that lived in gas-giant atmospheres needed pressure-driven technology. Each species had their own natural approach to building things, but all of them had been forced to abandon their instincts and follow Zephyrian patterns. The beautiful thing about hybrid technology, Lisa explained over the open channel, is that it works with any type of engineering. It doesn't matter if you prefer crystals, chemicals, biology, or pure mathematics. The suppression field can be converted into a power source for any approach to technology. Within hours, reports began coming in from across the galaxy. Species that had been primitive for thousands of years were suddenly building devices that made their former Zephyrian overseers look primitive by comparison. The Crystalline Collective built computers made of living light that could calculate the behavior of entire star systems. The gas giant dwellers created atmospheric manipulation devices that let them reshape weather on planetary scales. Species after species discovered that their natural approaches to technology, when combined with hybrid field manipulation, produced results that were not just different from Zephyrian methods, they were better. Commander Zethkar's voice finally appeared on the communication network, but now he sounded desperate instead of commanding. This is unacceptable, he broadcast. The galaxy requires technological stability. These uncontrolled developments will lead to chaos and destruction. Commander, Jake replied calmly, the only chaos here is the collapse of your control system. And the only thing being destroyed is the idea that there's only one right way to build technology. Dr. Hayes had been monitoring the Galactic Suppression Network during this conversation. Captain, something incredible is happening. The suppression fields are being converted into power distribution networks. Instead of controlling technology, they're sharing energy and information between different species. What does that mean? Jake asked. It means the Zephyrians can't shut anyone down anymore. The network that used to enforce their control is now connecting everyone who wants to work together. Over the following days, the transformation of galactic civilization accelerated beyond anyone's imagination. Species that had never been allowed to communicate directly with each other were suddenly sharing ideas and building collaborative projects. The Zephyrians tried to maintain control by sending their fleets to the most rebellious worlds, but they discovered that their weapons and ships were useless against hybrid technology. Every time they tried to suppress a new development, they only provided more power for the systems they were trying to stop. Commander Zethkar, Jake said during one final communication, your people have been peacekeepers for 3,000 years, but you've been keeping the wrong kind of peace. You've been stopping progress instead of encouraging cooperation. The alien commander's response was quieter than before, and for the first time, he sounded uncertain. Human Morrison, your species has released forces that we do not understand. How can you be certain this will not lead to galactic destruction? Because, Jake replied, we're not trying to control anyone. We're trying to help everyone become the best version of themselves. When you give people better tools, they build better things. When you give entire civilizations better tools, they build better civilizations. 6 months later, the Freedoms. Edge returned to Earth not as a simple cargo ship, but as the flagship of humanity's diplomatic fleet. The ship still looked like a collection of primitive mechanical devices, but those devices now connected Earth to a galactic community where every species contributed their unique talents to solving common problems. Lisa Parker stood in her engineering bay, which had become a classroom where beings from dozens of worlds came to learn hybrid technology principles. The funny thing, she told her latest group of students, is that we didn't really invent anything new. We just remembered that the best technology isn't the most complicated technology. It's the technology that makes everyone who uses it more capable. Captain Jake Morrison's final log entry read, "Mission accomplished. They tried to shut us down because they thought we were dangerous. They were right. We were dangerous to their way of thinking, so..." Captain Jake Morrison stood in the cargo bay and watched his ship transform into something that shouldn't exist. For 4 weeks, his crew had worked in secret, building systems that looked primitive but performed miracles. Now it was time to put everything together and see if their crazy plan would actually work. "Are we really going to do this?" asked pilot Jennifer Adams. She was looking at the new control system Lisa Parker had built to replace the ship's original bridge controls. Instead of sleek computer screens and digital displays, there were mechanical dials, gear-driven calculators, and devices that looked like they belonged in a museum. "We're going to do this," Jake said. "But once we start, there's no going back. The aliens will know something has changed." Lisa was making final adjustments to what she called the hybrid propulsion system. It was her masterpiece, a combination of mechanical engineering and quantum field manipulation that used the alien suppression field as both a power source and a propulsion medium. "The beauty of this system," Lisa explained to the gathered crew, "is that it doesn't work like any engine the aliens have ever seen. Normal ships push against space to move forward. Our system pulls space toward us and then lets it snap back. It's like being shot from a rubber band the size of a solar system." Dr. Susan Hayes was monitoring the suppression field with her collection of simple instruments. "The alien field is stable and strong," she reported. "They have no idea what we're about to do." Communications officer Amy Chen had built a new radio system that could broadcast messages using the aliens' own communication network. "I'm ready to contact the other human ships as soon as we start moving," she said. "They need to know that escape is possible." Navigator Ryan Collins had been practicing with the mechanical navigation computer for days. It was strange using physical dials and gears instead of digital displays, but the accuracy was actually better than their original systems. "Course calculated and ready, Captain," he reported. Tony Rodriguez was standing next to the main engine, controls. His steam-powered propulsion system was connected to Lisa's quantum field manipulator through a series of mechanical linkages that looked impossibly complex. "All mechanical systems are ready for activation," he said. Jake looked around at his crew. These 23 people had accomplished something that should have been impossible. They had taken the aliens' greatest weapon, the suppression field that kept primitive species under control, and turned it into the foundation of their escape. "Remember," Jake said, "we're not just trying to escape. We're proving that human ingenuity can overcome any obstacle. Let's show the galaxy what happens when you try to cage a human." Lisa activated the first system. The mechanical computers came to life with the sound of clicking gears and spinning wheels. Dials began to move as the machines calculated their position, course, and optimal escape velocity. The suppression field immediately detected the activity, but the alien systems couldn't understand what they were seeing. The scanners reported mechanical motion and simple electromagnetic activity, nothing that registered as advanced technology. "Field interaction is stable," Susan reported. "The aliens know something is happening, but their systems can't classify it as a threat." Next, Lisa activated the hybrid propulsion system. This was the moment of truth. Either their theoretical understanding of field manipulation was correct, or they were about to do nothing more than make some impressive mechanical noise. The ship shuddered slightly, then began to move. But it wasn't moving like a normal spaceship. Instead of accelerating gradually, the Freedom's edge seemed to slip sideways through space, moving in directions that didn't quite make sense. "Holy shit," Jennifer whispered, watching the navigation displays. "We're not just moving. We're moving through folded space. We're in a dimension the aliens can't even detect." Outside the ship, the Zephyrian vessels were detecting massive energy readings, but their sensors couldn't locate the source. The Freedom's edge was right in front of them, but according to their instruments, it was also somehow not there. Commander Zethkar's voice suddenly filled their minds again, but this time he sounded confused and worried. "Human vessel, you will cease all activity immediately. Our sensors detect impossible energy signatures from your location." Jake smiled and activated Amy's new communication system. "Commander Zethkar, this is Captain Morrison. Thank you for providing the power source for our escape." "Impossible," the alien commander replied. "Your vessel shows no advanced technology. Our suppression field remains fully active." "That's the thing about humans, Commander," Jake said. "We don't just use technology. We become it. Your field isn't suppressing us anymore. It's powering us." Lisa activated the next phase of their upgrade. The ship's hull began to change. It wasn't a physical transformation. The metal and structure remained the same, but the hybrid systems were creating fields around the ship that interacted with the suppression network in ways the aliens had never imagined. "Energy barriers are forming around the ship," Susan reported, "but they're not blocking incoming attacks. They're learning from them and growing stronger." Ryan was monitoring their movement through space using his mechanical instruments. "Captain, we're not following normal physics anymore. The ship is moving through dimensions that don't exist in standard space-time." "How fast are we going?" Jake asked. "That's the crazy part," Ryan said. "Speed doesn't apply to what we're doing. We're not traveling from point A to point B. We're convincing space that point A and point B are the same place." The Zephyrian fleet tried to follow them, but their ships couldn't detect which direction the Freedom's edge was moving. Every time they thought they had located the human vessel, it would appear somewhere else entirely. Amy was broadcasting on all frequencies, sending messages to every human ship in the area. "This is the Freedom's edge. We have broken free from alien control. Repeat, escape is possible. We are transmitting technical specifications for hybrid propulsion systems." Kevin Wright had discovered something else amazing about their new systems. "Captain, we're not just communicating with nearby ships. Our signals are being carried across the entire galactic communication network. Every species in the galaxy can hear us." Dr. Hayes made another incredible discovery. "The suppression field isn't just powering our systems," she announced. "It's actually improving them. Every time the aliens try to regain control, our hybrid technology adapts and becomes more sophisticated." Lisa was monitoring the ship's overall performance when she realized the full scope of what they had accomplished. "Captain, we've created something that has never existed before. We're not just using alien technology, we're evolving it in real time." The Freedom's edge had become something beyond either human or alien understanding. It was a ship that grew stronger every time someone tried to stop it, that moved through space in ways that violated known physics, and that turned every attempt to control it into fuel for greater freedom. "Commander Zethkar," Jake broadcast, to the confused alien fleet, "you said you were peacekeepers. You said you prevented primitive species from developing dangerous technology. But you made one critical mistake." "What mistake?" the alien commander replied, his mental voice now showing genuine fear. "You assumed that advanced technology had to follow the same patterns you've always known. You never considered that there might be completely different ways to build and use machines. Human engineering doesn't just make tools. It makes tools that can remake themselves." Jennifer was piloting the ship through dimensions that shouldn't exist, using mechanical controls that responded to her thoughts as well as her hands. "Captain, the aliens can't follow us because their ships are designed for normal space, but we're not in normal space anymore. Tony's engine systems were producing power levels that dwarfed their original fusion reactors, all by manipulating the same suppression field that was supposed to keep them helpless. The more energy they put into controlling us, the more power we have to break free. Jake looked around at his transformed ship and his amazed crew. In 4 weeks, they had gone from being prisoners to becoming something the galaxy had never seen. They had taken humanity's greatest weakness, their supposed technological primitiveness, and turned it into their greatest strength. "Set course for Earth," Jake commanded. "It's time to show the galaxy that humans don't just build better machines. We build machines that help everyone who uses them build even better machines." The Freedom's edge disappeared from normal space entirely, leaving the Zephyrian fleet alone and confused, trying to understand how a primitive species had just accomplished the impossible using technology that their advanced scanners couldn't even detect. The age of alien technological suppression was about to end, and it was ending because humans had remembered something that more advanced species had forgotten. Sometimes the best solution to a complex problem is to approach it from a completely different direction. 3 days passed in the broken ship. The alien vessels stayed in their circle around the Freedom's edge, watching and waiting. The Zephyrians had given the humans basic life support, enough air, water, and heat to keep them alive. But everything else remained dead. During those 3 days, Captain Jake Morrison watched his crew very carefully. He noticed that engineer Lisa Parker spent a lot of time staring at broken equipment with a strange look in her eyes. She would pick up pieces of metal and wire, turn them over in her hands, and then put them down again. On the 4th day, Lisa came to Jake with an idea that sounded crazy. "Captain," she said quietly, "I think I know how to beat them." They were sitting in the ship's kitchen, eating cold food from cans. The kitchen was one of the few places where they could talk without being near any major ship systems. Lisa kept her voice low, just in case the aliens were listening somehow. "Tell me," Jake said, "the suppression field they're using, I've been watching how it works. It shuts down anything that looks like advanced technology, computers, engines, power systems, communication equipment. But it doesn't touch the really simple stuff." She held up a can opener. "This still works. So does my mechanical watch. The hand tools and the repair kits still work fine. Even the old-style manual controls for the cargo bay doors still function." Jake nodded slowly. "Keep going. The aliens think in terms of advanced and primitive. To them, if it's not quantum computing or fusion power, it's not worth worrying about. But what if we could build something that looks primitive to their sensors, but actually does advance things?" "Like what?" Lisa smiled. "Like a new ship, built inside our old ship, using parts and principles so basic that their fancy scanning systems will think we're just playing with junk." That afternoon, Lisa started taking apart the coffee maker in the kitchen. Mechanic Tony Rodriguez watched her work, trying to understand what she was doing. "The heating element in this thing," Lisa explained, "is basically a simple electrical resistor. The temperature control is just a basic thermostat, and the timer mechanism is purely mechanical, springs and gears like an old clock." Tony picked up a piece of the disassembled coffee maker. "So what can you do with this stuff?" "Separately, these parts are just junk. But if you know how to combine them..." Lisa connected 2 wires to the heating element and attached them to a small battery from a flashlight. The element began to glow red hot. "You can make things that the suppression field can't detect because they're too simple to register as technology." Word spread quietly through the crew. Navigator Ryan Collins contributed the gyroscope from an old-fashioned compass. Communications officer Amy Chen found vacuum tubes in an antique radio that someone had brought aboard as a decoration. Dr. Susan Hayes donated electronic components from old medical equipment that used simple analog circuits instead of digital computers. They worked in secret, always making sure that some crew members were visible in the main areas of the ship, while others worked in hidden corners. The cargo bay became their secret workshop. It was the largest open space on the ship, and the alien scanners seemed to pay less attention to it because it was supposed to be empty. Lisa and Tony set up their workshop behind stacks of cargo containers. They used hand tools and battery-powered lights. Everything they built had to be mechanical or use very simple electrical circuits. Nothing digital, nothing computerized, nothing that would look advanced to alien sensors. The key, Lisa explained to the growing group of helpers, is to think like humans did 300 years ago. Before computers, before advanced electronics, humans still built amazing things. Steam engines, mechanical calculators, radio transmitters made from basic components. Communications officer Kevin Wright had an idea. What if we could build a radio transmitter using just vacuum tubes and simple circuits? Something that could reach other human ships? That's exactly the kind of thinking we need, Lisa said. Amy. Chen had been working on the radio idea for 2 days when she made contact with another ship. The signal was weak and full of static, but the voice on the other end was definitely human. "This is Captain Martinez of the cargo ship New Frontier," the voice said. "Who is this? How are you broadcasting? Our communications have been dead for a week." Amy looked around at her crewmates with excitement. "This is Amy Chen aboard the Freedom's Edge. We're building new communication equipment using old-style components. The aliens can't detect it because it's too primitive for their sensors." "That's impossible," Captain Martinez replied. "The suppression field stops everything." "Not everything," Amy said. "Just the stuff that looks advanced. We're going back to basics." Over the next few days, Amy made contact with 6 other human ships that had been disabled by the Zephyrians. All of them were trapped, waiting to be transported to primitive worlds. But now, they had hope. Lisa's workshop grew bigger and more ambitious. She had figured out how to build mechanical computers using gears and levers, like the old calculating machines from Earth's past. These machines could do math and store information, but they were completely mechanical, no electronics at all. "Look at this," she said, showing Jake a device that looked like a cross between a clock and a typewriter. "It's a mechanical navigation computer. Feed it the right numbers about star positions and ship velocity, and it can calculate courses through space just like our old digital systems did." Dr. Hayes made her own contribution. She had been studying the suppression field using simple instruments, magnets, metal coils, and basic electrical meters. "The field isn't just blocking our technology," she told the group. "It's also sending information back to the alien ships. Every time it stops something from working, it reports what it found." "So they know what we're doing?" Jake asked. "They know what they're stopping, but they don't know about anything that doesn't trigger the field. Our mechanical and simple electrical systems are invisible to them." Tony had been working on something he called a hybrid engine. It used steam pressure and mechanical linkages to move the ship, but it got its power from a chemical reaction that was so simple it didn't register as technology to the alien sensors. "It's basically a really advanced steam engine," Tony explained. "But instead of burning coal or oil, it uses a chemical reaction between 2 common cleaning supplies we have in storage. The aliens see simple chemistry, not a propulsion system. Navigator Ryan had built a mechanical astrolabe that could determine their position in space using nothing but eyeball observations of stars and some clever mathematical calculations done on Lisa's mechanical computer. The amazing thing, Ryan said, is that this method is actually more accurate than I expected. The old navigators on Earth's oceans used similar principles hundreds of years ago. 3 weeks after the shutdown, the Freedom's Edge looked exactly the same from the outside. The alien scanners detected no technological activity. The humans appeared to be spending their time doing simple tasks, cleaning, exercising, playing games. But hidden in the cargo bay, a revolution was taking place. Lisa stood in front of a collection of devices that would have been impossible to imagine just a month ago. Mechanical computers, steam-powered engines, vacuum tube radios, gear-driven navigation systems, and dozens of other contraptions that looked like they belonged in a museum but actually worked better than the original ship systems in some ways. The beautiful thing about all this, Lisa told Jake, is that we're not just copying old technology. We're improving it using everything we've learned in the past 3 centuries. These machines use principles that are 300 years old, but they're built with the precision and knowledge of modern engineering. Jake looked at the workshop his crew had built in secret. How long before we can test everything? The individual systems work fine, Lisa said, but hooking them all together into a working ship, that's going to take time and a lot of coordination. Plus, we'll only get one chance. Once we start the main systems, the aliens will notice that we're moving. How much time do you need? Lisa looked around at her mechanical marvels. Give me another week to connect everything. Then we'll find out if humans are as clever as we think we are. Jake nodded. The aliens thought they had humans figured out. They thought humans were just another primitive species that could be controlled by taking away their advanced technology. But humans had been solving problems long before they built their first computer or launched their first spaceship. And sometimes the old ways of doing things were not just simpler, they were better. Dr. Susan Hayes had always been curious about how things worked. As a doctor, she needed to understand the human body, but she also loved physics and had studied it in college before switching to medicine. Now, stuck on a dead ship with alien technology controlling their lives, her curiosity was becoming very useful. While Lisa Parker built mechanical computers and Tony Rodriguez worked on steam engines, Susan spent her time studying the suppression field itself. She used simple tools, magnets, pieces of metal wire, and basic electrical equipment that was too primitive for the aliens to care about. For 3 weeks, she made careful measurements and took detailed notes. She discovered that the suppression field wasn't just a simple barrier that stopped technology from working. It was much more complicated than that. Jake, she said to the captain one morning, I need to show you something important. They met in the small medical bay where Susan had set up her equipment. She had built what looked like a science project from an old school, coils of wire, simple batteries, and small pieces of metal arranged on a table. The suppression field is not just blocking our systems, Susan explained. It's actually a very sophisticated control network. Think of it like a spider web that covers our entire ship. Every strand of the web talks to every other strand, and they all report back to the alien ships. She activated one of her simple devices. It was just a coil of wire connected to a battery, but when she turned it on, a small needle on a meter began to move back and forth in a steady pattern. This is measuring the suppression field's activity, Susan said. Watch what happens when I change the frequency of my little transmitter. She adjusted a dial on her device, and the pattern on the meter changed. The field is responding to my signal. It's trying to analyze what I'm doing and decide whether to shut it down or ignore it. Jake watched the needle dance back and forth. What does that mean for us? It means the field is not just defensive, it's interactive. And like any complex system, it has vulnerabilities. Susan had spent days mapping these vulnerabilities. She discovered that the suppression field worked by sending out constant scanning pulses that looked for specific types of energy patterns. When it found something that matched its database of dangerous technology, it would immediately send a shutdown signal. But here's the interesting part, Susan continued. The field assumes that any species advanced enough to build complex technology will always build it the same way. It looks for quantum processors, fusion power signatures, and standard electromagnetic patterns. She showed Jake another device she had built. This one looked even simpler. Just some wire wrapped around a piece of metal with a small battery attached. This device uses principles that are so basic, the field doesn't even recognize them as technology. But watch what happens when I tune it to the exact frequency the field uses for communication. Susan flipped a switch, and something amazing happened. Instead of her device being shut down by the suppression field, the meter showed that the device was actually drawing power from the field itself. Susan, Jake said slowly, are you telling me that your little machine is stealing power from the alien control system? Not stealing, Susan said with a big smile. Borrowing. The field is designed to stop technology that threatens it, but it can't stop technology that feeds off it, because that would mean shutting down itself. Jake felt excitement building in his chest. Can you scale this up? Make it bigger? That's what I wanted to talk to Lisa about. If we can combine her mechanical systems with my field interaction devices, we might be able to build something that not only resists the suppression field but actually uses it as a power source. They found Lisa in the cargo bay, working on her latest project. She had built a mechanical computer that could solve navigation problems using nothing but gears, levers, and rotating drums. It looked like something from a museum, but it worked perfectly. Lisa, Susan said, what if I told you that we could power all your mechanical systems using energy stolen directly from the alien suppression field? Lisa stopped working and looked up. I'd say that sounds too good to be true. But I've learned not to underestimate human creativity. Show me what you've got. Susan explained her discoveries about the field's interactive nature and demonstrated her power siphoning device. Lisa studied the simple apparatus with the focused attention of an engineer who saw possibilities everywhere. This is brilliant, Lisa said, but I think we can do even better. What if we don't just steal power from their field? What if we actually make the field work for us? Over the next few days, Lisa and Susan worked together to create something that had never existed before in galactic history. They called it a hybrid mechanical quantum interface, but it was really much simpler than that name suggested. The device combined Lisa's mechanical precision with Susan's understanding of the suppression field. It used basic physical principles, gears, levers, and simple electromagnetic effects, but it operated with quantum-level accuracy by using the alien field itself as a reference point. Look at this, Lisa said, showing Jake their first successful test. She had built a navigation system that was completely mechanical but could calculate courses through space with perfect accuracy. Instead of using computer processors, it used the suppression field's own quantum fluctuations as a calculating medium. Navigator Ryan Collins was the first person outside the core team to see the new system work. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. This is impossible, he said, watching mechanical dials and gauges display navigation information that was more accurate than their original digital systems. How can mechanical devices be this precise? Because they're not just mechanical anymore, Lisa explained. They're mechanical systems that interact with quantum fields. It's like having a steam engine that runs on nuclear fusion. Communications Officer Kevin Wright made the next breakthrough. He had been working with Amy Chen to improve their simple radio system when they discovered something remarkable about their vacuum tube transmitters. The alien field doesn't just ignore our old-style radio signals, Kevin explained to the group. It actually amplifies them. Our broadcasts are being carried by the same network the aliens use for communication. Amy had been listening to transmissions from other human ships when she picked up something unexpected: alien communications. The Zephyrians were talking to each other through their suppression network, and the humans could hear everything. They're planning to start moving human ships to primitive worlds next week, Amy reported. They think we've accepted our situation because our ships have shown no signs of technological activity. Dr. Hayes had been working on her own project, a medical scanner that used the suppression field to examine the human body with incredible detail. The field interacts with biological systems too, she told Jake. I can see things inside the human body that our original medical equipment could never detect. Pilot Jennifer Adams came up with the most ambitious idea yet. If we can use their field for navigation and communication, what about propulsion? Could we build an engine that moves the ship by manipulating the suppression field itself? Lisa and Susan looked at each other with excitement. That's not just possible, Lisa said. That's exactly what we should do. Instead of fighting against their control system, we'll use it to move faster and more efficiently than any ship in galactic history. Tony Rodriguez summed up what they had all begun to realize. We're not just building a new ship, we're building one that uses their own technology against them. Every attempt they make to control us will make us stronger. The crew of the Freedom's Edge had stumbled upon something that would change everything. They had discovered that human engineering principles, developed through millions of years of tool use and problem-solving, could interact with advanced alien technology in ways that the aliens had never imagined. They wanted to shut us down to keep us primitive, Jake said, looking at the incredible hybrid systems his crew had built in secret. Instead, they've given us the keys to become something more advanced than anything they've ever seen. Lisa. Parker stood in the middle of her transformed cargo bay, surrounded by devices that looked primitive but performed miracles. "Captain," she said, "I think we're ready for the next phase. It's time to show the Zephyrians what happens when you underestimate human ingenuity." The Freedom's Edge was about to become something unprecedented in galactic history. A ship that was more powerful because it had been made powerless, more advanced because it had been forced to go back to basics, and more dangerous to the established order because it proved that there was always another way to solve any problem. The alarm bells stopped ringing because there was no power left to ring them. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the middle of his ship's bridge, watching every single light go dark one by one. The screens that showed their course through space went black. The computers that ran the ship's systems made quiet, clicking sounds, and then nothing at all. "What the hell just happened?" Jake asked, but his voice sounded strange in the sudden quiet. Chief Engineer Lisa Parker was already on her knees, next to the main control panel, pulling off metal covers with her bare hands. She had worked on ships for 15 years and had never seen anything like this. "Captain, this isn't normal," she said. "Everything just died at the same time. That doesn't happen unless someone makes it happen." Navigator Ryan Collins tried to restart his navigation system 3 times. Each time, the screen would flicker for half a second and then go black again. "Sir, it's like something is actively fighting against our systems. Every time I try to turn something on, it gets shut down immediately." Jake looked out through the thick glass windows at the front of the bridge. Space looked the same as always. Black with tiny white stars scattered everywhere. But something felt wrong. The ship wasn't moving forward anymore. They were just floating, like a piece of garbage thrown into an ocean. "Lisa, how bad is it?" Jake asked. Lisa pulled her head out from under the control panel. Her hands were dirty and she looked worried. "Captain, I've never seen anything like this. It's not that our systems broke. It's like something reached into our ship and turned everything off. The power cores are fine, the wiring is fine, but nothing will work." 23 people lived and worked on the Freedom's Edge. It wasn't a big ship, but it was home. They carried supplies between Earth's colonies, which wasn't exciting work, but it was honest work. The crew was like a family. They ate meals together, played cards together, and looked out for each other when things got tough. Now they were all gathering on the bridge, talking in worried voices. Communications Officer Amy Chen couldn't send messages to anyone. The engines wouldn't start. Even the coffee maker in the kitchen had stopped working. "Captain," said Dr. Susan Hayes, the ship's doctor, "the life support systems are still working, but they're running on emergency backup power. We have maybe 6 hours of air and heat left." Jake felt cold fear in his stomach, but he couldn't let his crew see it. A good captain stayed calm when things went wrong. "Okay, everyone stay calm. We've been in tough spots before. We just need to figure out what's going on and fix it." That's when they saw the ships. At first, they looked like strange stars that were getting brighter. But stars don't move, and these lights were definitely moving. They came from 3 different directions, moving fast and smooth like sharks swimming through dark water. "Those aren't human ships," Ryan said quietly. The alien ships were beautiful in a scary way. They looked like they were made of silver metal that bent and flowed like water. There were no sharp edges or straight lines. Everything was smooth and curved, like someone had shaped them with their hands instead of building them with tools. Jake had been in the Earth Defense Corps for 10 years before he became a cargo ship captain. He had seen pictures of alien ships, but he had never seen real ones. Earth had made contact with a few alien races, but they usually stayed far away from human space. "How many?" Jake asked. "I count 12 ships," Ryan said. "No, wait, 15. They're hard to see because they keep changing color." The alien ships moved into a circle around the Freedom's edge. They didn't fire weapons or make threatening moves. They just surrounded the human ship and waited. Then something impossible happened. A voice spoke inside Jake's head. It wasn't coming through the ship's communication system because that was broken. The voice was just there, inside his mind, speaking words he could understand. "Humans of the vessel designated Freedom's Edge," the voice said. It sounded calm and cold, like someone reading from a book. "Your species has been classified as technologically unstable. Your ship's systems have been permanently disabled. You will be relocated to a designated primitive world where you may develop naturally under our guidance." Jake looked around at his crew. They all looked scared and confused. "Did everyone else hear that?" he asked. "Yeah," Lisa said. "That voice was in my head." "How is that possible?" the voice continued. "I am Commander Zethkar of the Zephyrian Collective. We are the peacekeepers of this galaxy. For 3,000 years we have maintained stability by preventing primitive species from developing dangerous technologies." "Primitive?" Amy Chen said angrily. "We've been traveling between stars for over 200 years." But the voice kept talking as if it couldn't hear them. "Your species shows the typical signs of technological instability. You build weapons. You fight wars. You expand aggressively into new territories. If left unchecked, you will eventually threaten the peace and safety of more advanced civilizations." Jake stepped forward, even though he knew the alien couldn't see him. "This is Captain Jake Morrison. We're not looking for trouble. We're just carrying supplies to human colonies." "Your intentions are irrelevant," the voice replied. "Your capability for harm is what matters. The Zephyrian Collective has dealt with hundreds of species like yours. The pattern is always the same. First contact, then rapid technological advancement, then warfare and expansion, then the destruction of peaceful civilizations." Dr. Hayes spoke up. "You can't just decide what's best for an entire species. We have rights. Rights are a luxury afforded to species that have proven themselves capable of peaceful coexistence. Humans have not yet reached that level of development. In time, perhaps your descendants will be ready to join galactic civilization. Until then, you will be protected from yourselves." Jake felt anger burning in his chest. These aliens thought they could just take away humanity's freedom because they decided humans weren't good enough. "And what if we refuse to go to your primitive world?" "Refusal is not an option. Your ship is now completely disabled. You have no weapons, no propulsion, and no communication systems. You will be transferred to a transport vessel and taken to a world where you can live simple lives without dangerous technology." The voice paused for a moment, then continued. "Do not attempt to resist. The suppression field around your vessel will prevent any technology above the most basic level from functioning. Any attempt to build new systems will be immediately detected and neutralized." Then the voice was gone, leaving the crew of the Freedom's Edge alone in their dead ship. Jake looked at his crew. These were good people. Lisa could fix anything with engines or electronics. Ryan could navigate through the most dangerous parts of space. Amy could talk her way out of trouble with pirates or customs officials. Dr. Hayes had saved dozens of lives during their travels. They were skilled, smart, and tough. But right now, they were trapped like animals in a cage. "Captain," Lisa said quietly, "what do we do now?" Jake looked out at the alien ships surrounding them. The aliens thought they had humans figured out. They thought they could just shut down their technology and humans would give up. But there was something the aliens didn't understand about humans. something they had missed in all their studying and classifying. "Listen up, everyone," Jake said to his crew. "They may have shut down our ship, but they've made one critical error. They don't understand what humans are capable of when we're backed into a corner." He looked at each member of his crew. "They think technology is just about having the fanciest computers and the most powerful engines. But technology is really about solving problems, and humans have been solving problems a lot longer than we've been flying through space." Lisa smiled for the first time since the power went out. "What did you have in mind, Captain?" "They said they can stop any technology above the most basic level," Jake said. "So let's show them what we can do with basic technology. Let's show them what happens when you try to cage a human."